Welcome to the Benning Report. Coming up in this edition, find out what changes are in store for infantry school facilitators.
And Rangers seize Lawson Army Airfield during their annual training.
Later, Fort Benning honors Dr. King and those who joined his crusade. Welcome to the Benning Report. I'm Melissa Bell.
And I'm David Wright with the Fort Benning Public Affairs Office. Thanks for watching.
From Ranger School to Ibolic, soldiers reporting to Fort Benning's Infantry School will notice some changes. An assessment is underway for potential facilitators to make sure we've got the right soldier for the job. It's called the Facilitator Leader Assessment Program, and it puts instructors, now called facilitators, to the test, or shall we say interview process, to determine where these soldiers will be best suited to teach in the infantry school.
Those instructors that we put or that serve as facilitators need to be the role model, need to look like an instructor, but they also need to have the right mindset and the right skill set to develop those soldiers coming through.
To gauge those skills, 4 stations were selected on main post. A station for weapons, map reading, medical, and communications.
Line 6, broken arm.
Soldiers had to navigate to the stations with a map, complete them, and return to the starting point within 90 minutes.
This station here is the weapons station. Here they're supposed to perform the 249 and 240. They're doing a clearing, a disassembly, and then once they've completed that, they're going to do a reassembly and a functions checks. Both 2 instances are 3 minutes for each, and once they've completed that and they've completed all tasks, they get a go at this station.
Not only is this assessment a way to gauge their physical fitness level and ability to complete the task, but also to take a look at the skills and attributes leaders may not be able to determine from a piece of paper. Things like
confidence, their communication skills, how they interact with others. So do they have a collaborative, a team mentality, a motivational effort behind them? Does their image personify somebody that's going to lead by example?
Skills tested today were all level 1 tasks that every infantryman has been trained on. From the tactical proficiency of Ibolic to the physical demands of the Ranger course, no one knows better what it takes to be successful at these courses than the facilitators already holding these positions, which is why they're the ones assessing candidates.
I'm seeing if they're going to acknowledge the patient as a person instead of just a dummy, if they're being gentle with the patient while they're securing the ties for the fracture, because you're not going to be grabbing it.
And if they thought this morning was rough, soldiers then met with brigade leadership. What candidates didn't know was that they would also have to teach an impromptu class on one of 4 subjects, either drill and ceremony, PRT exercises, fundamentals of marksmanship, or tactical scenarios, and with only 3 minutes to prepare.
Just be prepared always, stay tactically sound, stay physically fit, obviously, by today's events. And just know your warrior trash, your basics. Stick to your basics, know them well. You never know when you're going to have to impromptu teach a class like today.
With lessons learned from Armor School's recent edition of a similar assessment, Infantry School leadership is taking steps to ensure that the facilitators of today will put forth the agile and adaptive leaders of tomorrow. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. And each year, Fort Benning's Land Management Branch conducts controlled burning in various areas of the installation. These prescribed burns are vital for several reasons, but they can also create a smoke hazard. I talked to one expert who explains why this smoke means safety.
It might be unsettling to see fire spreading through the woods of Fort Benning, but these fires are strategically started and tightly controlled. December through May is burn season on Fort Benning, and even after scheduling burns on a 3-year cycle, 30,000 acres a year must be burned to keep the risk of wildfires to a minimum.
In the mid-'80s, we had on average about 500 to 600 wildfires annually. Since the prescribed burn program has been instituted, since then we're down to around 100 fires annually.
This success is directly linked to the prescribed burns because they reduce the accumulation of leaves, brush, and other natural materials that can fuel a wildfire. The pattern of areas burned each year also serves to provide a natural fire barrier when and if a wildfire does break out. In addition to controlling the risk of wildfires, the burning also contributes to the Maneuver Center's mission.
The benefits to training are it opens the woods up. It gets rid of a lot of the brush and a lot of the understory vegetation. It kind of cleans things out for movement and for access for the training.
This year's burn cycle is focused on Kelley Hill, and while the land management branch takes every step they can to mitigate the effects of smoke, it, unlike the fire, cannot be completely contained.
We use weather forecasts, weather predictions, as best we can to predict what the weather's going to do. So basically our smoke management relies heavily on current weather conditions and predicted future weather conditions.
While prescribed burning improves the ecosystem and promotes a healthy forest, the effects of smoke can still pose a risk to some, and with the burning season currently at its peak, those in the Fort Benning community should be aware of the possibility of smoke hazards, especially this year as the burning schedule may make Martin Army Community Hospital a prime target for the smoke.
The best thing to do is folks who have health conditions, asthma or things related to that, to keep doors and windows closed, use the HVAC systems in your house or residence that will eliminate smoke indoors. Due to the training mission, the woods will burn. We try to burn the woods under our conditions to keep smoke away from populated areas, smoke-sensitive areas. Controlled smoke is always better than a wildfire.
If you would like to be added to the smoke notification email list for advanced alerts on both prescribed burns and wildfires, you can send the request to benning.mcom.mbx.web@mail.mil. David Wright, Fort Benning TV.
It's a certainty in life, at least life in the United States, that each time the calendar rolls to a new year, it's time once again to file those taxes. For those of us who dread this annual chore, there's good news. Fort Benning Tax Center opens for business on Friday, January 30th, and they have IRS-trained professionals to help you file your taxes for free.
As soldiers, family members, and retirees begin to receive tax documents in the mail, the Fort Benning Tax Center is here to help, offering e-filing at no cost so service members can meet their tax obligations and get the refunds they deserve.
Something soldiers should look out for is the fact that a lot of shops are offering an expedited return process, and essentially that is a high interest loan. But if the soldiers can just be a little patient and can wait just that 7 to 10 business days for the e-file to come back and hit their bank, this is the service that they want to do. It could save them hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Taxes can be a hassle and time-consuming for so many soldiers and their families. This year, a kiosk system is in place that allows you to file your taxes with user-friendly software. And if you have a question, there's somebody standing by to help. Another big time saver at the Tax Center this year is you are able to schedule your appointments in advance.
Now we're doing an appointment service as well. So for people who are really crunched for time, we can find some time before April 15th to sit down with you and do your taxes. It's critical to us that all our soldiers be able to at least have access to this program if they're eligible, so that they don't have to waste their money going to a commercial preparer site.
These civilian and soldier tax preparers have been trained through the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program and have completed basic advanced and military law certifications. And being familiar with the military life and how that can affect taxes provides added confidence for military families.
Because a soldier has already pretty much gone through those scenarios and we have to be certified on the military portion of the VITA, we are able to do like the PCS moves and realize, okay, there's a lot of different things and we're going to know, okay, this doesn't qualify and this does because we've done the training.
A few things to remember as you head to the Tax Center this season: your Social Security card, those of your dependents, military identification cards, W-2s, and other documents that are income related. For more information, visit the Fort Benning's Tax Center website at benning.army.mil and click on the Staff Judge Advocate under the Maneuver Center tab. Katie Cooke, Fort Benning TV.
Coming up next, the 75th Ranger Regiment keeps its skills sharp.
one of the cornerstones of the 75th Ranger Regiment is the unit's ability to execute joint forcible entry operations, a skill they honed during their multilateral airborne training exercise. Katie Cooke brings us a look at MLAT.
The regiment's multi-week multilateral airborne training exercise, or MLAT, prepares Rangers for one of their fundamental mission sets: Airfield Seizure operations. Today, these Rangers are conducting a fire support coordination exercise, with infantry working with fire support and synchronizing their movements in the fight.
Our job is, as tasked by General Nero, is joint special operations. So we're doing that with elements within the Army outside of our unit, and then we also have like our Air Force JTACs that are attached to us, getting them integrated to our training as well. And that helps us with the special operations raids we're tasked with and forcible entry operations.
Bringing all of the elements of a real-world scenario together. The MLAT is as real as these warriors can get in a training environment. And as Rangers maneuvered to meet each objective, helicopters flew overhead, taking out their assigned target.
The platoon leadership and the forward observers for each platoon, and myself and the commander, to coordinate in order to get an objective complete. Basically work to integrate any assets we have available, whether rotor wing, fixed wing, or any surface-to-surface fires.
Even if it's not the particular aircraft or assets that we've seen today, it's the entire idea of fire maneuver, that we are setting conditions, be it organic assets that the platoon owns, so our machine guns, or inorganic assets, giving us our ability to knock out enemies in depth and allow my guys to get as close as possible to the building, whatever the objective is.
The intent of this exercise is to prepare Rangers for airfield seizure missions, allowing them to maintain a constant frame of mind if called upon on short notice to execute an objective without the opportunity for specific mission preparation.
Everything that we do needs to get touched on, and the less and less you touch it, the more and more it atrophies. So by accessing it at least once a year, make sure that it's fresh. The other thing is we're also getting new guys 3, 4, 5 times a year. If they're only seeing it 2 or 3 times, in a decade, what good is that? They're not getting trained on it, and we're losing proficiency, which is absolutely unacceptable.
One of the most tedious and essential parts of MLAT is static load training. In order to assure the aircraft load can be carried and the mission can be conducted correctly, soldiers spend a full day rehearsing loading and unloading of vehicles' equipment, as well as the soldiers themselves. Ultimately, the MLAT exercise will culminate the final training execution of an airfield seizure, like those the unit executed for real-world operations during Operation Urgent Fury and Just Cause. Katie Cooke, Fort Benning TV.
After the break, special guest to Fort Benning, remember Dr. King.
Motorcycle enthusiasts are heading out on the road, happy to see the winter weather diminishing in their rearview mirrors, even if just for a day. But before you jump on the bike, make sure you've completed the requirements for riding on post.
Before you even think of feeling the wind in your face, you have to have the proper gear in order to ride on post. All motorcycle riders must wear DOT-approved helmets, pants and long-sleeve shirts, proper boots and eye protection when riding. And at Fort Benning, soldiers must complete the basic rider course before hitting the streets.
Don't look at me, look right ahead. We'll take brand new soldiers who never ridden before, wants to get into the hobby of riding motorcycles, and we teach them how to do that, from knowing what the parts are of the motorcycle and how to operate them to putting the bike in motion.
After mastering the basics, soldiers begin long-term maintenance of their skills on the bike. To help them with this, units have a motorcycle mentorship program. Because no matter how long you've been riding on two wheels, it's important to keep safety skills sharp to prevent injury.
The motorcycle mentor program was implemented because the Army was having a lot of accidents involving motorcycles. And this was one solution that they came up with to prevent accidents and to teach safe driving and teach new skills to motorcycle riders and new riders.
Do the same thing on the back tire.
Commanders appoint a senior leader who is a seasoned rider and has completed all of the qualifications and basic and advanced rider course. Mentors take soldiers out on quarterly rides, giving them a chance to see how riders are behaving on the roads.
One of their main responsibilities is to mentor the soldiers after they've completed the basic rider course. The motorcycle mentors will do refresher training for all the soldiers, monthly checks of their motorcycles, discuss any and all aspects of motorcycle riding to the peers in their areas.
Now you're ready to dust off that two-wheeled beauty for a ride, but remember to always be mindful of your surroundings.
Ride smart. We have a riding strategy that we ride by, and that's search, evaluate, and execute. Meaning search, you always got to keep your heads and eyes up, looking down the roadway, looking to your left, your right, your rear, always checking to see what's out there that could harm you. And then evaluate it, what type of hazard it does present to you, and then formulate a plan, how you're going to execute it.
Want to put your bike to good use on the next sunny day? Sign up for the Basic Rider class and get started on your safe and righteous ride. Katie Cooke, Fort Benning TV.
More than 56 years ago, Martin Luther King Jr. brought his message of civil rights for all through nonviolent means to Columbus. During the annual celebration of King's life and cause, Fort Benning met two women who were there the day King came to Columbus and joined him in his work.
Minnie Wimbish, now a spry 99 years old and 3 months shy of her 100th birthday, worked alongside Dr. King as a young mother during his only visit to Columbus.
He didn't teach hatred and all like that, but everything that he taught was love. And when I could hear him, I would. And I imagine that I would have been with him if they had let a lady come with him.
In 1958, Dr. King spoke at the Masonic Temple on 6th Street. Also on the program that day was Wimbish, who courageously agreed to speak despite the threat of possible violence. She has continued a life of activism and public speaking, doing her part to promote Martin Luther King Jr.'s message of love.
I am the child they stole from the sand over 300 years ago in Africa's land.
Wimbish's daughter, Ethelyn Kirby, attended Dr. King's Columbus visit as a young child and would later follow in her mother's footsteps, proving to be an inspiring public speaker in her own right. And, along with her mother, was the featured guest speaker at this year's Martin Luther King Jr. observance.
With the speakers that we had today, they actually were able to meet Martin Luther King, the person, and actually was a part of the program that when he came to Columbus. For military to be able to learn the aspects of what happened in this area, that helps the community and the military. We come together.
The observance included full recitations of King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech,
free at last, thank God Almighty, we're free at last.
And Dr. King's final sermon, "I've Been to the Mountaintop."
My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Thank y'all for coming.
The first, a vision of a better tomorrow. The last, a challenge to the country to live up to the ideals upon which it was founded, those of equality and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all.
I believe that's one of the most important aspects, to celebrate the man himself, and then at the same time still promote what he believed in for all of us now.
David Wright, Fort Benning TV.
Coming up next, Riverside renovations. Work is underway at the Commanding General's house.
It's one of the oldest and most beautiful buildings on post, dating back to before Fort Benning. Here are the details on the Riverside renovation in progress that's giving this historic site more than a facelift.
All across the world are homes that make you stand up and take notice.
Some attract our fascinations and others have us ogling at what's inside. We love them for their fun facts like the spooky Winchester House in California with its many staircases and doors that lead to nowhere, or their celebrity status like the Playboy Mansion with Hugh Hefner and guests. There's also the historic homes from around the world with thousands of yearly visits, like a famous castle you may have seen but never known the name to, like the Neuschwanstein Castle in Bavaria, Germany, or the Chateau de Versailles in France with its Hall of Mirrors, once housing 3 of their kings. But then again, we have our own national landmark like the White House, housing our president and first family. Just as the Commander-in-Chief has his home, so does Fort Benning's Commanding General with Riverside, a house that dates back to before Fort Benning with its regal columns and lush landscape. However, this home is closed for business as it gets a much-needed renovation.
We're bringing it up to date, but honoring the home's significant past.
While the main portion of this home, once known as the Busey Plantation, was built where it stands, the meeting house and today's kitchen was rolled up on logs from the river, giving it its name, Riverside. It's taken several teams of architects to give the bones of this home a facelift.
So we'll open up this whole area.
And one thing that's first to be addressed is structure.
One of the expensive fixes that we've done that nobody will ever see are all the additional piers that we put underneath this home.
If these walls could talk, they'd tell you of the countless dignitaries they've hosted, and the balconies, how they've offered sweet relief from the sticky Georgia nights. Today, however, those low railings just won't do, so extensions will bring the height up to code. Built in 1908, imagine a Georgia summer day without air conditioning. Not to worry for today's commanding generals, as it gets an update in climate control and new spray foam insulation.
The great thing about the spray foam is it's going to seal a lot of the cracks in this old home, preventing the bats from getting in, preventing critters from getting in, but also just making it's going to go a long way to making this home energy efficient.
A new handicap bathroom is also underway, giving contractors a glimpse into the past of yesterday's decor. One thing that won't be touched, however, are the windows, or as some say, the eyes to the home. We can only imagine what they've seen. Work is scheduled to be complete in April this year. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV. You know, David, some folks believe a Revolutionary War colonel is buried beneath Riverside, and some say that his ghost still haunts the area.
I wonder what he thinks of the renovations.
I don't know, but others say he may not be buried there, if he even existed at all.
Well, of course they're going to say that. And that will bring this edition of the Benning Report to an end.
But you can watch these stories and others on youtube.com/BenningTV or at benning.army.mil.
And be sure to like us on Facebook.
From the Public Affairs Office, thanks for watching.